Hello and welcome to My Mom's Basement, presented by Barstool Sports. I am your host, Robbie Fox, along with my co-host, Clem, as always, and Youngsters Rejoice. Jose Youngs is back on the podcast. I looked back. I can't believe how long it's been. It was December 2022. For the entire year of 2023, we didn't get this guy on the podcast. We gave him a 1-year suspension for hyping up Secret Invasion and the show.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
No, how we doing, Jose?
I'm great, man. I'm always happy to talk to the Basement Boys. I've been seeing you guys' stuff like periodically throughout, like when I'm not like traveling doing UFC stuff, and I gotta say, you guys are killing it. I'm like super happy and proud of what you guys are doing. Because like from that, recently I rewatched that first appearance I was on, and like to see what you guys are doing now is just so awesome. I'm like so happy for you guys.
Thank you, Jose. What a wholesome start to this podcast. What a great start. Clem, how we doing?
I guess I'm just gonna keep the good vibes going because first of all, thank you, Jose. Because I just say you get you guys all have the social media, you hear stuff about good, bad, and different. But when I hear it in person, that's how I know it's legit. And the amount of times where I'm like, dude, I love Jose. You got to get him back on. I need to hear him breathing deep into a microphone. And different Marvel projects coming up. So it just feels good just to be back in the basement. Again, suspension, well-deserved. I think.
Yeah, that's fair. Did
you see it?
I didn't watch it. I messaged because whenever a new show or movie comes out, within the first couple of days, I usually text Robbie. I'm like, just like honest thoughts, and usually he's very excited. Wasn't all that excited. Like his excitement level, I'm just like, oh, that's a super bummer. And then I started to get like Twitter mentions of like, I bet you're not breathing heavy now after watching episode. I'm just like, all right, I guess it's bad. Maybe I won't watch it. Because at one point I felt obligated to watch it because I hyped it up so much, and I do love that story in the comic book. But after seeing all the mentions, I was like, oh, maybe I should just steer clear of what's happening.
Well, I knew we were in trouble when I think some of the actors or maybe the writer said, like, yeah, Marvel told us don't read the comic book. We're not doing that. We're doing our own thing. I was like, oof. Oh, no. But you're using the name for the comic book. So you're setting expectations here. And then, dude, they delivered this. I don't even know how to say this.
Tell him, Rob. Just tell him. Rip the Band-Aid off.
I'm here for it.
Hear what happened.
Brother, they put every single MCU power from they were like, we looked throughout the where the battle in Endgame was, and we found a bunch of superhero blood, and we put it all in this super serum. A super serum, and they made the Super Scroll. They injected it into Emilia Clarke's character, and at one point she grew a Drax arm. The worst CGI you could ever imagine. And now we just have, it's kind of, to me, a universe breaking hero just floating around. Yeah. Emilia Clarke has every power in the entire MCU.
I mean, it's not the Super Scroll in the comic book is not that drastic, but he does have, I believe it's like Thing's arm with Johnny Storm's arm with like Mr. Fantastic's like stretchy body with like Invisible Girl's like legs and like force field powers, but it is not because it was made to be all four Fantastic Four. Not all powers ever. So, but the Super Scroll is a very silly character. He actually had a little bit of a role, and they did a crossover classics. I think it was Superman, or it might have been Green Lantern versus Silver Surfer. It might have been Superman versus Hulk. I don't quite remember, but the Impossible Man turned into the Super Scroll. It was very strange.
The Super Scroll, they cast a good guy to play him too, but they killed him off.
Yeah, he was the guy who's playing Bob Marley in the movie, right?
Yeah.
That guy's awesome.
Okay.
They also like there's a lot of stuff that if you go back and watch the recaps, like you could see like our excitement for the first few episodes. We're like, all right, this has some like real spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen Secret Invasion. Fast forward like 5 minutes. I'm just gonna tell my boy Jose. They killed Maria Hill in like the first episode. They killed what's his name? Our boy Robbie.
Talos.
They killed Talos. They killed who was the agent they killed in like the first or second?
Was it Martin Freeman?
Yeah, it was Martin Freeman, and did he end up being a Skrull? I can't remember. Anyway,
I think he wound up being a Skrull, but the other egregious thing is they made War Machine a Skrull going back to like Civil War. So like Endgame War Machine that watched his best friend Tony Stark die and had a nice moment with him there at the end, apparently wasn't him.
Well, that's sort of what happened. Not War Machine, but there were a lot of heroes that ended up being Skrulls for a long time in the comic books, and that was
there outrage?
It was more Cool, because an issue is 30 pages, and a lot of them would end on cliffhanger, so then you'd have to buy the next one. And then the marketing for it was actually pretty excellent. They would take old, like famous comic book covers, but then make the heroes scrolls.
Oh, I like that.
So
That's
then then one of them ended. I think I've mentioned on the show before, but one of the issues ended with actually it leads. I'm sure we'll talk about Echo on this, but Echo was there on site. They go to the Savage Land, which is like where dinosaurs and everyone still exist on Earth. And a ship crashes. And at this point, we know that some heroes are Skrulls, but we don't know which ones are which. And when the ship opens up, like dozens and dozens of superheroes exit, but they're all dressed like they were in the 80s. So it's like, were these heroes plucked from Earth in the 80s and held on this planet? And everyone else is a Skrull, or is it vice versa? And it was a whole thing because like Mockingbird was dead, but then she came out of the ship and then she had the same memories as Mockingbird. It's because Mockingbird was like dated and married to Hawkeye, and she had like real intimate knowledge of it was very strange. So like that aspect was great, but they weren't just killing people off willy-nilly.
And they really didn't give the gravity of it. And then you go see our boy Nick Fury in Marvels, and he's like happy as a clam. It's like, dude, you lost some of your best fucking friends, and I know everyone has to be disposable in the life of a secret agent or whatever he is. But it just felt weird. And I'm gonna say, I try not to bring up Secret Invasion, and I bring it up basically every episode. And now I'm like angry all over again, hearing how it was pretty fucking good in the comic books, and now we have to read it. And I will say, did you watch Loki?
No, not at all.
Loki was good. Thumbs up on Loki. Everything we said about Secret Invasion, basically the opposite for Loki.
That's the only Marvel show my girlfriend watches is Loki, and she's hooked. But I'm not allowed to watch it with her because when characters will come onto the screen, I'm like, oh, this is gonna happen, and then it always happens. And then she's like, get the F, like leave, like you're gonna spoil the whole thing for me. So
you're a human spoiler alert. Yeah.
Just
you can't help yourself. You see a character and you're like, oh, I know their whole story.
It's the burden I bear.
I think you would like Loki though, especially the way they take his character, the way they leave him at the end and stuff. It's cool. It really works too. But yeah, everything else in the MCU since we last talked is rough. Yeah, have you heard Kang the Conqueror? Anything about that guy?
I've seen the headlines, and I know they want to recast him. Which they're
gonna have to.
But if they are going to recast a character, like it's the perfect character because
that's what we've been saying.
Hundreds of him in the world. Yeah. So yeah, I'm all like, if it's gonna happen, I don't know who it's gonna be, but I'm all for it.
Yeah, there's rumors of Coleman Domingo, and if that's true, I think.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. But like I said, we're here to talk about Echo today. It is fitting that you were on to talk to us about Echo when she first appeared in Hawkeye. We got you back on for the Echo premiere. But first, we got to talk about the biggest news of the week, especially for the Basement Boys. Look what I got up there. You see that little baby Yoda Grogu up there? That's right. Grogu's coming to the big screen. The Mandalorian and Grogu, that's what they're calling it, is entering production this year, 2024. It's going to be a movie directed by Jon Favreau, produced by Kathleen Kennedy, Favreau, Dave Filoni. There's not a lot of information so far about what this is. We don't know if this is replacing a potential season 4, if we're still going to get a season 4 after this. We don't know if this is the big like heir to the Empire Avengers style team up that they teased last year, where you'll get Luke and Boba Fett and Ahsoka and kind of try to connect all of these stories. But The Mandalorian's becoming a movie. I think that's good news.
It is excellent news, Robert.
Yes.
It is excellent news. I don't know if it's going to be a long episode. I don't know if it's going to be. I imagine it's season 4, Mando movie. We all go home happy, sad, however it ends. Our prediction, what's our prediction? Baby Yo is the Mandalorian. We find out the entire time. He kind of goes the way and, becomes him.
But do we find that out here, or is this the start of like a trilogy or, a series of movies? That's what I'm confused. Because also, we talked about this in the Disney Boys group chat. Is this the end of The Mandalorian as a television show? Once you go blockbuster movie, it seems like it would be hard to go back to Disney Plus.
Yeah,
that is a good point.
And I'm so happy Jose watches Mando. You said it before. He's like, it's one of the few shows I watch. I was like, yes, we got Jose locked in right now.
I love it. Yeah, I hope, like, honestly, I'm because I also love Pedro Pascal, so like I
Mhm.
want this show to go on forever, but obviously realistically that can't happen. In the anime world, this is pretty common. Like Attack on Titan just wrapped after 10 years, and the last 2 episodes were 90 minutes. They were
Yeah.
90-minute movies. So I'm all for a trilogy, but I also do like the, wait a week and you get 45 minutes of the Mandalorian. Because
Mhm.
it also just feels more like that world fits in a TV show.
Totally. Yeah.
But I do get I mean, I'm all for Ahsoka and Luke and the dark saber and everything kind of doing their thing on the big screen in a movie theater, that's for sure.
They also announced with this that Ahsoka season 2 is entering production, which
Mhm.
we figured we're getting a season 2 for that. They had such a good teaser, and the whole season was pretty acclaimed by fans, critics alike. And the little teaser image that Dave Filoni shared is a drawing that he did himself of Sabine and Ahsoka on the Mortis God statue that
Oh,
Balon's skull is on at the end, which is
oh,
like, oh man, if you thought space whales were weird, we're going to get weird in season 2. We're going to get freaky. We're going to go deep into the weird Star Wars lore of Mortis gods and who controls the Force. It's going to get crazy, but I'm here for
I
it.
love, like, we'll talk about it, I'm sure, at some point in like comic books too. But one of my favorite tropes is celestial gods.
Really?
I love, like, I grew up reading HP Lovecraft, which is obviously like just Cthulhu monsters deep in space, but I love ancient cosmic gods so much. And I love Star Wars, not as much as you guys, but like I love Star Wars. So the combination of the two checks. So I like, this is a show. This is a movie or a show, I would go see at midnight just for those things,
Wow.
for sure.
This is a reminder for everyone out there. If you haven't watched Eternals or have watched it, go back and
Oh
watch
yeah.
our Eternals preview with Jose, who explained everything to someone like me who can't even begin to fathom what a celestial god even
Bro.
is, and he made it so much easier to comprehend, which
Yeah.
helped a lot.
He makes the movie better, to be honest.
He's starting to breathe heavy, Bob. I hear when we're talking celestial gods.
Celestial gods, yeah.
There are things happening in the current comic book world that I struggle to wrap my head around, which I'm sure we'll talk about at some point.
Really?
Oh yeah, we'll talk about it. But we're talking about Grogu right now. Grogu deserves all the time he can.
And I don't know if The Mandalorian and Grogu is just a working title, but honestly, I think it's a perfect title
very
for the
good
first
point.
Mando movie. Like, that could totally be the title. Also, on the point of the TV show maybe ending, the end of season 3, people were saying felt like a series finale.
For
And
sure.
they teased a bunch of stuff. They teased the mythosaur under the water and stuff, the eye opening. So there's obviously stuff they set up for the future, but is that for the future of movies or whatnot? When they did the little Looney Tunes like ending, that's all folks on Grogu, that could have been an ending, and it was a pretty good ending. They defeated Moff Gideon, or so we hope, so we think, it's somehow Palpatine returned. Anything could happen, but I don't know. I think this might signal the end of Mando season 4, though I saw a rumor today that it doesn't. Someone somewhere said, we're still going to get a season 4 after this. I think this movie and Ahsoka season 2 will set up what will eventually be Heir to the Empire.
Oof.
With Thrawn as, the big bad villain. You get
Yeah.
Luke fully in there.
Oof. See, this is fun to me because I don't really consume Star Wars on the reg like you guys do. So this is like, what you're telling me is how you probably feel when I just spew comic book stuff. So like, this is all news to me, and I'm getting more excited about by the minute.
It's interesting too, because in comics, if they announce Secret Invasion, you could look at, okay, this is probably where they're going to go. In Star Wars, there's no roadmap. There's legends stuff and material they could pull from, like Thrawn and stuff. But you could only take that so far with the new television shows trying to loop everything into new canon. I'm excited for it. I'm really excited for it.
Question for the two of you guys. Do you guys prefer them creating new Star Wars content and characters, or do you like them pulling old characters? Like when they pulled Luke in, but then they also introduced all of these other, like, my favorite part of The Mandalorian, I would watch a whole show on just their tribe. Like, I loved
like the
that
Mandos.
aspect. I loved that because it was new, but then I also got really excited when Luke, they like popped in, or when Ahsoka pops in. So what do you guys prefer? Do you like old IPs or like new creations for the shows?
For me, I think it's hard to go one or the other. I feel like you need to have a balance, and I feel like the balance needs to be almost like 80% to 20% new to old. Like I like little, little features of old characters, but I don't want like an issue. I think both of us, me and Clem, had with the Obi-Wan show. There was a little bit too much Leia talking to Obi-Wan that made the original hologram confusing. Of it being like, oh, they like fully very well knew each other by that point. When you start to use characters that much, I think it starts to mess with what we have in our heads about them. Even like Solo as a movie. I don't hate Solo. I think it's fine. And it's a Star Wars movie, so I like it more than most other movies. But it's my least favorite Star Wars movie because I think they were, focused on like checking every box of, oh, Solo, how'd you get that name? It's like, what if it was just his name?
Yeah, that's when it gets naughty, is when they're starting to ruin the old stuff by lumping it and, wedging it in with the new stuff. I'm with you, Bob. It's like, and again, we've talked about it a lot of times. It's like, all right, we don't need to go to Tatooine for the 8,000th time.
I agree.
It's a fucking like desert planet that has nothing on it. Why does everything happen there? Or like, oh, the Emperor is back for the next set of movies. Like he's been in every fucking movie basically. So that drove us crazy. I'm going to compare it to another pillar in the basement here. It's like wrestling. Like at some point you have to flush the old stuff and you get the new stuff. But then like when fucking The Rock just shows up on Raw, you're like, fuck yeah, I love The Rock. It was so much fun. You see Luke, that made a move. I got goosebumps just thinking about that scene at the end of that season. So yeah, I'm with you. I think it's like a lot of new stuff. We got to keep moving on. I think they can kind of like recycle the next generation of stuff a little bit and have them, meet up and whatever. But I do think we have to these fucking people are dying at this point.
Right.
Just let them rest in peace.
I like cameos from the old guys. I think Clem made the perfect comparison there, like a Royal Rumble appearance from an old guy. Yeah. I love that. Do I want an old guy to get a title run? Most of the time, no.
And to be clear, like it doesn't have to be The Rock. It could be like, oh, Bushwhacker Luke is here. Great to see him.
Like I was
exactly
like I went to the Rumble when The Godfather came back for like those 5 seconds with the Ho Train, and I was like, he's not winning, but this is a blast. So yeah, I agree with you.
My Rumble, the only one I went to live, I got the Hurricane, one of my all-time favorites growing up. The one, fucking superhero wrestler. So I was all in on that. One more thing I want to bring up before we get into Echo, because I don't know if you've seen this yet, Jose. I hope you haven't. We could get your live reaction, but you might have. The Madam Web costume leak today.
Don't get me started.
You saw it. Yeah. So it leaked on an Ocean spray bottle. That's the weirdest part. Clem, did you see the Ocean spray leak? The first ever Ocean spray leak?
I saw it, and I was like, man, whoever comes up with making up fake internet memes is really working overtime. And then I'm like, wait a second. This is the studio that brought you all this other bullshit. This is real. And it blew my mind, and it made me laugh my ass off.
Dude, you thought the trailer looked bad. Wait till you see the suit. And no disrespect to Dakota Johnson. I'm sure it's not her fault. I'm surprised they haven't put out like a picture of Sydney Sweeney in her suit to distract from this, because it looks like it's made out of like Tootsie, or not a Tootsie Roll, or a fruit roll up. That's the texture it looks like it has.
Yeah.
And it looks like a CW suit. It's bad.
I'm not. I am a big fan of, like, I get Batman. You can't have the white eyes because it doesn't quite translate. And to go what we were just talking about, so was it the Dark Knight or the one of the movies when he gets the sonar eyes?
Yeah, Dark Knight. Yeah.
For that quick 30-second pop, and you get excited. You need the eyes covered for all force. Like, hey, Matt. Don't even get like Madam Web's whole gimmick is her eyes are covered by like.
Oh yeah, she's like blind, right?
She
like
is
kind
blind.
Of like
so she can see through time and space, but she can't see what's in front of her. That's literally her whole arc. Like she has like a thing that covers her, like a piece of cloth covering her eyes. Yeah. And then you have beautiful Dakota Johnson, who just looks like she's doing a model shoot. So
yeah,
she's still supposed to be an old
Spray.
woman.
Oh.
Yeah, come on, Ocean Spray. But that movie, I actually did see. I try to avoid trailers, especially for superhero movies. But that movie looks like it's like you said, it's just like a CW movie. I also don't understand why they're doing it this way, because it's a Sony movie, right?
Yeah. So they're not going to be able to connect it to
which is
Tom
sucks
Holland,
because the Jessica Drew Spider-Woman was introduced to the comic books through Secret Wars. Like her planet, like she was on Earth and then she ended up on Battleworld and then she meets Spider-Man, and it's like a whole thing. So I don't
Maybe
know.
they'll pull her in. Maybe they'll be like, hey, we need
like,
Sydney Sweeney in the MCU.
It's also like Ezekiel Sims is the bad guy who is such an over-the-top villain. Like he tried to like it. It's very when he was first introduced, it was very interesting because he brought a lot of new lore to the Spider Universe. Like, oh, Spider gods, and were you chosen to be Spider-Man? Was it not an accident? And all of that was great. But he shouldn't be the bad guy for a Madam Web character. He just shouldn't.
Bob, I thought you were going this direction. You said no disrespect to Dakota Johnson. I heard what I just heard from the both of you. No disrespect to Ocean Spray. They're just trying to make some money.
Sure.
Spray, I feel like I'm not even a cranberry juice fan, but I don't like cranberries in general. But they're the fucking like cream of the crop. It's always there. Jose, are you a fan of the can? I don't even eat I don't really eat the canned cranberry sauce on Thanksgiving, but I like just having it there. It feels right. I like the sound it makes. And let's be honest, boys. I remember back in 2020, the world was at a fucking low. And then that young man out in LA was drinking that Ocean Spray. And
I like that guy.
For like 24 fucking months. And it got me out of the pandemic mentally. And Ocean Spray gave him like a car or a house or something. So no disrespect, Ocean Spray.
All right, fair enough.
But like they are casualties in this war for sure. I'm telling you, that's not going to help their stock out. That people see that they're like, I'm never buying Ocean Spray again.
And you know what? They had pretty good commercials back in the day too. The guys standing out in the ocean field with the cranberries deep. Yeah, it's pretty good. All right, no disrespect, Ocean Spray.
I'd like to throw this out there. Maybe in a Basement Boys, all three of us would go out to a cranberry bog one day, just because it came up naturally.
I grew up in Rhode Island, and we're not that far away from the actual Ocean Spray headquarters.
Really?
In Massachusetts.
Where is it? Massachusetts?
I believe it's in Massachusetts near Plymouth.
Dude, if Ocean Spray's listening, we're there.
We're there, dog. Give us all the Madam Web bottles you got.
I fear that like Clem would be like the next grape lady or something like that. Oh, it's out of an ocean.
I love that.
We lost Clem to the bog.
Ooh, I think he's actually hurt. That's my favorite, the newscaster. All right, let's talk Echo. All 5 episodes came out last night. I watched the first 3. I saved the next 2 for tonight. Clem, did you watch? How much of it do you watch?
Okay. No shame in the basement, right? No shame.
No, no shame.
None.
1.5, fell asleep for the half. That's why.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Jose, did you see any of it?
My voice, I'm sick, but I did get 1.5.
I watched the first 4 episodes, and then I was saving the last one.
Jose's watched more than any of us. Unreal.
Thank you, Jose. Podcast.
This guy did his research for the pod. So I know we talked about it on the initial Hawkeye podcast. You kind of described Echo to us before we ever saw her. Can you refresh our memory?
Yeah.
You kind of talk about Echo as a comic book character, just solely in the comics. Where did she first appear? Do people like her? Is she popular?
She is she's very popular when she is a supporting character. She's not quite as she struggles to carry an arc. And I don't say that I think she absolutely could. I just think she's been one of those heroes that she hasn't really had a dedication, like David Mack and Joe Quesada, who I love. David Mack, actually, I think he's from New York. I love David Mack's art. He is such a unique individual when it comes to him laying out stuff. He created her in 1999, and since then, she's really struggled to find a dedicated writer. Like, you are writing Echo.
Yeah.
It's kind of bounced around from like team to team, arc to arc, and then she was part of the New Avengers and worked with Moon Knight for a bit. And I actually haven't seen much of Echo since 2021 in the comic book, so if anything's happened since then, I don't know. But she debuted, I believe, in 99. It was 98, 99, and it was a Daredevil character. And forget everything that from the show, because it's pretty much nothing that happens in the comic book.
Really?
Which is fine.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't have a missing leg. She's not. She has both legs, but she is deaf. But so she was really created to complement Matt Murdock, because Matt's obviously blind and Echo is deaf. So it's like a blind versus deaf situation. Daredevil has sonar, and Echo can mimic movements, kind of like, so she can mimic anything she sees. But I think the problem that you would run into in the MCU is that's what Taskmaster also does. And they don't ever really, to my knowledge, talk about that comparison in the comic books. Like, there's never an Echo Taskmaster showdown that I've ever seen. So I just don't know if they want to have that. But she's also Native American. in the comic book, so they got that right. But in the comics, her father is killed, and then Kingpin takes her in, like in the show, and she goes to, but it's like she's young and she goes to a school for disabled kids because Kingpin's like, she's deaf, send her to a disabled school. And she discovers her powers, or I don't even know if they're powers, more of abilities. She watches one of her classmates do like a piano recital, and then she just immediately does the exact thing, like right out of, and everyone's like, holy crap, what the hell's going on here? So then Kingpin kind of learns about her abilities to replicate movement and pretty much anything. So he basically tricks her into believing Daredevil killed her father, which I believe happened in the show.
Hawkeye.
They
Or
did
Ronan,
Hawkeye,
right?
yeah, Ronan, yeah.
Which we'll get into because that's also a little bit of a strange continuity thing for the comic books. But it's in a very, very interesting panel is to prepare for her going after Echo, or Echo going after Daredevil. She went on the internet and just watched all of the news cycles of Daredevil fighting Bullseye, because Bullseye is very OP in the comic books. Like, he's incredible at hand-to-hand combat and he never misses. So she just watches these fights over and over and over and over and over and just basically learns how to replicate both of their fighting styles, and then just mops the floor with Daredevil for a while, like just puts it on him. And eventually, like, it also builds up Daredevil's ability to kind of like overcome these obstacles, and it builds up Bullseye, which down the road, like, oh, this person took this from Bullseye. Bullseye must be really good at fighting, and just it was a great element. It was like building for the future. But to get in, and spoiler alert for, because this probably hasn't happened. You guys watch the Daredevil show?
We haven't.
No.
Okay.
People give us shit for it all the time. We really have to.
So I haven't. I got the first season is great. Didn't get through the second season because it wasn't my thing. But apologies for people that really like the show. But Karen Page dies. Bullseye kills her. And it's like a whole other crazy situation that goes into her. But then Maya kind of takes her place by like romancing Matt Murdock. So they become a thing, but she's trying to get close to him to then like learn about Daredevil and all this stuff. And then it obviously turns out that the fight breaks out. They fight. She puts it on him, but then the truth comes out that it was actually Kingpin that executed your father. So she does shoot Kingpin in the eyes, and Kingpin goes completely blind. Not just one eye.
She shoots him in both eyes in the comics.
She shoots him in the face. They don't show it, but then when he comes back, both of his eyes are taped up.
It's an impressive feat to shoot someone in the face and just blind them.
Absolutely. Yeah, especially like shooting him in the face, and Kingpin, who's a human being, doesn't even have superpowers, survives basically a point blank shot to the skull. But eventually, like, he comes back and he has like eye reconstructive surgery, and that kind of sets up this thing where Kingpin has to build himself back up because his second in command betrayed him. It's a whole thing with Kingpin. But then she kind of has this like existential crisis. She's like, what do I do now? Like, I thought Daredevil killed my father and I worked for Kingpin, but then it turned out not to be true. So she goes on like this spirit quest thing where she like goes to learn about her roots, and she actually meets Wolverine, and Wolverine doesn't fight, but like they just talk, and Wolverine gives her like excellent life lessons on and teaches her about like Japanese culture, because Wolverine's obviously based in Japan a lot. And I actually really enjoyed their conversation. It's a very good comic book conversation talk. Like, whoever wrote it
sounds cool.
And David Mack like killed it with the art. From this point on, David Mack is done. Like, he's not writing anymore, and Brian Michael Bendis takes over, who's the man.
Yeah.
And he writes, in my opinion, the best Echo story, where Daredevil at this point, his everyone knows who Daredevil is. Daredevil is Matt Murdock. Like, the world knows. I don't think it was Secret Civil War. I think it was actually before Civil War, but it happened after Avengers disassembled in the early 2000s, which reset the Marvel comic books. And there's this story called, I think it was called Breakout, where Electro is hired by someone to turn off the power of like the prison that holds supervillains. So all of these supervillains escape into the world, like kind of like the Batman Broken
Dark
Bat
Knight
thing,
Rises.
where essentially, but in the comic books, when Bane blows up Arkham Asylum, instead of just criminals, it's like the Joker and Amygdala and the Riddler. So Batman has to go take all this, and this is where Sentry is introduced, where he rips Carnage in half in space. It's like it's an insane scene. But Silver Samurai is a villain who is also like the Kingpin-esque of Japan, but he's also has powers. He can, like, you know how Gambit can like charge a card and like throw it? He can like charge like his sword. But
They
he's
had
also
like a weird version of him in the Wolverine.
Yeah, it absolutely did. It made
They
no
made
sense.
him like a mech suit. It was not good.
Well, he does have like a suit of adamantium and a sword, and he's like 6'9", and he's like an imposing figure. Like him versus Wolverine is a fight. And so he's back, and at this point, like there's like a Japanese gang war going on of like who's going to control Japan since he got arrested. But now Clan Yoshida basically returns and wants to unify all the gangs, but the Hand, which is like this evil ninja faction, ancient ninja faction, who's essentially like the League of Assassins in Batman. They're the real puppet masters. So the Hand wants to control Clan Yoshida, which will then control this massive empire, criminal empire in the world. And Captain America's like, Daredevil, you've had dealings with the Hands. We need to send you. And he goes, I can't, because everyone knows who I am, but I know a guy. And he sends Maya Lopez, and she promised that. And Captain was like, you can't kill anyone. Maya's like, fine, no, not kill anyone. So we basically learned that the Hand is also working with Hydra, which is obviously like, so it's like this mystical ninja army versus like essentially the Nazis of the world. And they are working together to basically just control Japan. And then so eventually she's discovered by the Hand, Hydra, Clan Yoshida, and like a bunch of other people. And then they all attack, and she goes berserk. Like she kills everybody. Like it's like her on 50. And she wipes the floor. It's not close. Like the paneling is literally just like blood splatter, her fighting. And then she goes back and she's like, shows up and she's like, oh God, I made it back to New York. Oh, but keep in mind at this point, she's Ronin. She's the original Ronin.
Gotcha.
Oh,
it's not Hawkeye. And the way they introduced Ronin in the comics is they would show this character on a lot of like covers and like promotional art, but they never told you who it was. It was just this guy in the corner.
I like that.
And like I told you, everyone knew who Matt Murdock was. People thought that was Matt Murdock's new identity.
Yeah.
But then it was because if you see it, her suit is built and padded to look like a man because they want people to come in hard, and then she can just replicate their things. It turned out to be Maya Lopez. So it was like a big twist that people thought it was Matt Murdock, turned out to be Maya Lopez. She gets back to New York, and then the Hand follow her. And it's this really interesting dynamic because you never see the Hands. And the Hand is like, their style of fighting is they either send, you've read Court of Owls, Robbie?
Oh, yeah.
So you know the Talon, which is like, so for people that don't know, the Talon, the Court of Owls is like the secret underground, like, they've been controlling Gotham forever, and they have this army of like owls people. But then they have the Talon, which is like their Captain America. Like he's bigger, stronger, faster, immortal. They have this. The Hand is the same thing. They have like their version of that. So they either send one monster ninja or like 1,000. Like there's, it's either and they keep in mind their powers. You can just keep resurrecting. So you just win by attrition. Like you just survive long enough until they leave. And you get this cool dynamic where the Hand fights the Avengers, which never really happens. Like seeing Captain America and Luke Cage and Iron Man fighting ninjas was very cool. I was a big fan. They obviously win the day. Eventually, Elektra turns out to lead the Hand, and then Elektra kills Maya.
Oh.
And then Maya's resurrected. I'm trying to remember this all off the top of my head. And then she's resurrected, but like the drugs that resurrect you kind of like mess with you. She's taken to Clan Yoshida because she's saved by the Avengers, and Yoshida's now like, we owe you guys. And basically they keep her there to like wean off the drugs. And then at one point she trips out and starts fighting all the Avengers and basically almost beats all the Avengers single-handedly.
Oh my God.
It's pretty unbelievable. Eventually she rematches and kills Elektra, and that's where the first Skrull shows up, because it turns out Elektra was a Skrull the whole time.
Wow. So Echo's pretty vital to that whole thing.
And that was that happened about a year before Secret Invasion was even a thought. So like they planted the seed that singular seed, and that was like the end of it. Everyone's like, what the hell? And then after that, she like worked with Hawkeye, and then she's just after that, she just kind of sporadically appears.
Yeah.
She's never a big thing. Like she works with Hawkeye.
But
Jessica
that run that
Jones.
you just described there sounds like she's a pretty big character.
She is, and that's why when she kind of it's super disappointing that she hasn't been used more. Like she was there for the Skrull invasion. She had a relationship with Hawkeye for a bit. She was the first one to realize that Spider-Woman was actually the Skrull queen in the Secret Invasion. She moved to LA and worked with Moon Knight, and it was okay. But this was really a problem with Moon Knight. Kind of. Did you ever read Legion or like watch the show Legion?
I've seen a little bit of it. Yeah.
So Legion has like a bunch of personalities in his head, and like Moon Knight does too. But it's just it got too much. Like at one point, Moon Knight thought he was Spider-Man. He thought he was Wolverine. And he thought he was.
Oh boy, it's like
it
when
was
the
in
NWO added Virgil. It was like, all right,
yeah,
this is
exactly.
over.
It just wasn't good. But that wasn't Echo's problem. It was Moon Knight's issue. And then the last thing I read with her is the Phoenix Force came back to Earth and had a tournament to determine who would be the next host. They took a bunch of heroes and made them fight. And the first person I believe Echo fought was Submariner, but she fought him on like a ocean planet, so it just wasn't fair. So right,
home
like
field
God,
advantage.
Right, it's like facing mankind in like a Hell in a Cell. Like you're not gonna win that. So but it's like this was the only cool part of the story is she gets destroyed, but she keeps trying to fight, and the Phoenix Force is like. Respect, like you are trying, like I need someone that wants to survive and win. So she got the Phoenix Force for a while.
Wow.
And so she was this super powerful thing, and it was fine. I think she became the new Thunderbird or Warbird too, and that's the last thing I ever heard of Echo. So if she's done anything since then, I do not know because it was so average. I just didn't keep up with it.
I went from being like, I can't believe Echo got her own show to I can't believe Echo didn't get her own show sooner. And I'm kind of disappointed she's not just fucking badass. And I feel like the finale of the show is going to have 7 monstrous things. I have a brain. I know. I think this show was created back before like Bob Iger was like, you guys have to stop making like things that are kind of dragging. So I think this is the previous phase. We're still getting that. But man, and the fact that Elektra moment, this is in my brain. That was like the holy fuck. Every comic book fan just dropped it. And then they dropped their jaw too, right? So the fact she was so instrumental in all that, like, fuck. I'm shocked. Jose did it again. He did it again.
That's my job, man. So I don't quite understand what the beginning of the show when she gets like those like you see all those
like God thing.
Man, I wasn't really into that.
No, and I'm like watching. I'm like, I don't know what this is. Like to the point where I'm like, did I not remember things from the comic book?
Yeah.
And then I like went back through like all the like my issues with Echo. I'm like, oh no, I didn't forget anything. That just didn't happen.
Yeah, I don't think the show is bad. Like them dumping it all at once, the 5 episodes, it was like a worrying sign of like they're just trying to like dump this off to the side. I thought it was pretty enjoyable through the first 3 episodes. Like there was nothing about it where I was like, I want to turn this off. I wasn't really bored.
Right.
All of that CGI stuff though, where they were clearly, it was
jarring.
So green screened. It was so like, it clashed with the tone of like the grounded Oklahoma. This is someone who doesn't really have power. She has more of abilities. I have a couple notes I wrote down. One was there's nothing I really saw, at least so far, to justify the TV MA rating, which I was excited about, but I was like, there's a couple moments of blood splatter here and there, and it's certainly violent, which I appreciate, but not in the Daredevil Netflix way or the Punisher, none of that, which I was like, maybe they're just testing the waters and seeing how a TV MA show performs before they do it with Daredevil. I don't know. First episode, pretty redundant if you've seen Hawkeye. Like half of the footage they used was straight from Hawkeye, not even like they reshot new angles or new perspectives. They just reused some of that stuff. So I was a little surprised by that, but it is what it is. Action's pretty good. I like the sound design too. The moment where the cops surround her and it goes silent and she does the bike and you don't hear it till the bike crashes and shit. It was a great moment. And Kingpin, definitely the highlight of the show for me, at least so far. the moments where he's on screen, you know, taking her from the cops and like just displaying his dominance when people are turning to him and they're, oh my God, do you know who that guy is? Like, I'm like, oh shit. Like they're prepping for, there's the rumors that they're going to go down the Kingpin as mayor storyline with Spider-Man 4 and shit. They're building him to a level where I'm going to believe it. And I'm going to believe him as a Spider-Man villain after Spider-Man just took on the fucking whole multiverse.
I had a couple notes. I had the deaf fighting scene where like the sound just goes out. You kind of talked about with the bike as well. I thought that was really well done. And this was more a question for Jose or in just the show. Again, I'm an episode and a half in. I don't know if this happens again. Does Kingpin just have like a sign language interpreter at his beck and call whenever he's around Echo? Like,
yes.
hey, so she just
I don't want to ruin what's coming. Robbie, have you seen it? You got through it. I don't remember what episode it is.
Just 3. No, I saw like the last thing I saw was like Echo and Kingpin looking at each other.
So there's a scene coming up where all of a sudden he has a different interpreter,
Ooh.
and you're like, oh, that's not the same person. And then they explain why, and I'm like, well, that's a bummer.
Interesting.
Yeah, but
scroll. We got to scroll.
I wish that would have been way better because like my family is like pretty embedded in the deaf community in the Northeast.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my 2 grandparents were like the superintendent and the principal of the School of Deaf in Maine, and my
wow.
dad is completely fluent. So like I kind of gravitate towards deaf characters just because I kind of grew up in that. It's great. Like the sign language is perfect and great. There's a scene that's coming up that you haven't seen yet, where I'm like, that's just a cop-out. Like, that's so lame. And it was so lame and so cheesy and so annoying that I didn't turn it off because of that, but I was like, this is stupid. Like, this kind of just, it didn't ruin it for me, but I was highly annoyed.
Yeah, well, like, what do you think of the show as a whole, kind of just like in a broad strokes way compared to the comics? Like, are you like, this is just, is it not even like,
it's not even
resembling
really
the Echo?
Because you'll see, like, I don't want to give you guys spoilers, but like, Echo has powers that you'll see.
Yeah, they teased that with her palms.
Yeah, that doesn't exist in the comic book at all.
Yeah.
Like it's just the ability
As soon as
to fight.
they showed that, I was like, oh God, this isn't the show to CGI the fuck out of. And Ken Jack said the same thing. He was like, somehow you took a show about like a gritty street fighter in Oklahoma and you CGI'd the fuck out of it. What? Even the fight scene with Daredevil was cool. It was really cool in the first episode. But the way they presented it as a one take, I could tell where every single one of those cuts was, where it was like, it was good action, but it wasn't great action. You know, it was just on the verge of like, it never hooked me. The show never took me to the level where I was like, all right, I have to stay up and finish it tonight.
I tweeted that there's a comic book called Scalped that I think this fits. If this was a Scalped TV show, it would be way better because Scalped is essentially the Sopranos on an Indian reservation. With like, or it is astounding. Anyone, it's very violent, but anyone that wants that, like, kind of gets hooked on like this Native American, like, kind of underworld thing, go read Scalped. It's 10 volumes, and it is amazing. But it is essentially the Sopranos meet on an Indian reservation. So that like watching it, that's all I could think about was, God, I want to read Scalped again.
Happy 25th anniversary to the Sopranos today. It was the day that premiered.
There you go.
How about that? Anything else I have noted? I don't have very, very many notes. I figured most people listening to this probably won't finish it by the time that they listen to this. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe, I mean, if you're listening to a My Mom's Basement podcast, you're probably a pretty big nerd. So maybe you did finish it. We'll talk spoilers and finale next week, I figure, just to give people kind of a little bit of time to go through the 5 episodes.
Do you guys think, because like right now, just looking at, because you guys have seen all the stuff, but Captain Marvel is obviously like pretty OP, like she's very powerful, and then like Shang-Chi and Echo and the Thunderbolts, like it doesn't really seem like there's a lot of power on this new Avengers team that they keep trying to put together, right?
Yeah, I mean, so I saw one post with like a potential new team members, and like, again, I'm gonna say no disrespect to Awkwafina because I really liked her in Shang-Chi, but she was on the list, and I was like, if we're pulling her off the bench, we got issues. She could be there for the movie. She doesn't have to be an Avenger though. Like, and the list they had, I think they put fucking like the Hulk's son that we saw at the end of She-Hulk on that. I was like, oh oh no, we're going down a weird path with the Avengers. And Doctor Strange wasn't on the list.
Oh, that's very
they were
weird.
like,
What?
they were like, yeah, Doctor Strange. Someone said, one of the leakers, one of those like scoopers or whatever, said Doctor Strange isn't going to be on the first Avengers team because they're going to have to like bring in the heavy forces for, you know, Secret Wars or something. So he won't be there for Kang Dynasty, but he will be there for Secret Wars. There's no world in which I'm going to believe Doctor Strange after like Endgame is going to let, you know, a multiversal issue like that happen and not be like, I have to be there for it.
Well, he knows what's happening. Isn't that the whole thing? Because he saw through time and saw all the endings.
True.
It's true.
So like this guy, I don't know. I'm worried about the next Avengers roster for sure, though. People were saying like it's going to be like the Monstars are going to put up 1,000 on them.
It does. It does remind me of when Avengers Disassembled happened, and then there was no Avengers. This was a 2001-ish, 2003-ish, and then the new Avengers came. It was kind of a hodgepodge of characters but it was still
personally like I'm okay with as a comic fan, obviously. But I know like most of the world isn't going to be okay with. So when I talk to them about the movie, they're going to be like, it stunk.
Like New Avengers still had Captain America and Iron Man and Ronan and Spider-Man was a part of it. Wolverine joined the Avengers. Sentry joined the Avengers. Spider-Woman was in the event. Luke Cage and Jessica Jones. So, like those are heavy hitters. Like,
true. And you know what? Now that I'm kind of thinking it through in my head, like Deadpool and Wolverine are probably going to be Avengers by that time. Maybe call Tobey Maguire back up and get a couple Spider-Men in that team. You could salvage it.
Wasn't there a meme about like what the Young Avengers is? I think you sent it to me, Robbie. Do you remember what was it again?
It said Young Avengers is going to be the first movie to owe us money at the box office.
That's right.
Like, that's funny.
Yeah,
I think they're going to lean heavily on the X-Men and Fantastic Four to do like the heavy lift.
Yeah,
like,
you'd have to.
And again, I'm sure there's comic fans, Jose, you can speak to this, who like the Avengers is their number one. For me, it was like X-Men with a bullet growing up. And, you know, I'm like the 91, 92. And then it was Fantastic Four. And then it was a couple individuals dabbled in DC. And it was like, oh, these events, like Iron Man was clunky. He didn't look cool as all.
Dude, I'm so glad you said that, Clem. Because until Iron Man the movie, the first movie came out, Iron Man sucked. So did and I love the character, I love the lore. Thor also sucked.
Yeah.
Like Walter Simonson's run with Thor is legendary. It's like one of the top 10 runs I've ever read in terms of character with a writer. But until Avengers Disassembled and he came back to life, just trash. And then they fixed it up.
Thor was like, as a kid, I specifically remember having a Marvel coloring book, and I was never coloring Thor.
Hell no.
He was the most boring hero to me. I was always going for Captain America. I'd even go Iron Man because he was in the Tony Hawk's Underground game. It's like the only thing I knew Iron Man from. And I was coloring him in. I would get to Thor. I'd rip that page out. I'd wipe my ass with it.
There you go.
That's fine. Brutal, Rob. Brutal.
Right.
But you know what? I like Thor now. I like Thor now. Thor's great. I got a Thor comic book on that shelf over there. I got one that Jose recommended me before Love and Thunder came out, which, you know, again, didn't quite live up to the comic, but I liked Love and Thunder. That's it for me on Echo. Also, Echo now officially brings in the rest of the Netflix shows into canon. Marvel has added them to the Disney Plus timeline. So Netflix fans rejoice. They're finally part of the canon. There's no reason they couldn't be. You know, they didn't go against Marvel canon. I think they were all written to kind of fit in that world anyway. So I think that in Daredevil, they mentioned the Battle of New York at some point.
Yeah.
Like 2012 messing the city up or something like that. So.
Yeah, the Defenders was pretty wild TV show. I hated the show.
That was their version of the Avengers, right?
The Defenders was
like where they all team up.
Yeah, Luke Cage, Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, all that.
And wasn't my favorite. Nothing but horrendous things about Iron Fist. I've heard pretty good things about Jessica Jones. I know people like The Punisher.
Jessica Jones, I think, was the most. I think Jessica Jones was the most well written, for sure.
I would check that out. I like Kristen Ritter from Breaking Bad.
Honestly, Daredevil, the first season of Daredevil, I thought was excellent. They like comic book fans rejoiced, and they were like, "Oh, they got it right."
Yeah, we're gonna have to watch that, Clem. People have been telling us for years, and I started it. I actually watched a couple episodes, and I enjoyed it. It was just one of those things. I think we were watching like Dexter at the time, and I was like, I gotta finish this or something.
By the way, I heard someone say like they were comparing this to Ozark, which I am currently watching right now, and I'm like, yeah, let's not compare this to Ozark.
Echo, you're saying they were comparing to Ozark?
I thought I saw someone's comparing to it was
Andor.
I saw someone compare it to Sons of Anarchy. Was it?
I saw someone compare it to Andor.
Really?
I don't know where that comes from.
Well, I
don't-
think they mean like every like the first 2 episodes seem like their own story.
Gotcha.
You know, it's like it seems
Yeah,
like
I can
3
see that.
stories in 5, which I did enjoy.
Yeah, and honestly, it's getting a lot of shit still on Twitter. People echo who asked for this, and nobody asked for this. Whatever. It's not bad.
It's
I
not
watched
bad.
3 episodes last night. I think if you like MCU, if you're really into the MCU, I think it's a very watchable show. I think it's a lot more watchable than the last season of What If.
I'll take your word for it.
Jose,
Yeah, no,
you a
stay
big
away.
What If fan for the comic?
I am a massive What If fan.
Same here. Show, not
Dude,
so much.
Oof.
What
It was
did
tough.
they do to our boy? It's
Baby.
the whole season. I don't even want to get into it. The whole season's linked, and it like defeats the purpose of What If. We want.
Oh wow, that's super lame.
Bro, both seasons they're putting together an Avengers team of What Ifs to fight like a multiverse. It's no good. No bueno.
Pass.
Jose, I'm just gonna bring this up. I didn't realize I had it right here. What if I got the greatest gift from my basement boy of the week right there, our boy Frank? Look at this. Darth Jar Jar.
Oh my god,
This
dude!
custom
I'm not.
figure
Dude,
right there.
I'll die on this hill. That's not even a what if. That is canon. That is
guy!
a canon event.
My guy, I love this guy.
That is a canon event.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, yeah. You guys are gonna die on that hill. Yeah.
I just like the concept, and I really enjoy talking with people that have that opinion.
Yeah, Clem's been waving that flag for years.
I love that.
It's the most innocent conspiracy theory you can have. There's so many not innocent, crazy conspiracy theories in the world right now, and I just hold on to this one and go to the land game every so often and just like be like, yeah, it's so true. It makes a lot more sense than what episode 2 became, right? We can just leave.
Yeah,
sure.
All right, before we get out of here, I thought this would be a fun opportunity for some basement boys and girls to get into comic books, the comic books that maybe inspire the stuff that they love. I asked Jose to put together 2 lists for us, a list of his favorite comics of 2023, his top 3, and then his most anticipated comics of 2024, stuff that if you're a comic book fan, you should be looking forward to. So let's start with 2023, looking back on last year as a year in comics.
I would say I'll give you 2-ish lists because I know people are going to tune in for the Marvels, the superhero stuff, but I didn't read a ton of superheroes. My favorite comic book of the year was Monica by Daniel Klaus. That's kind of his best. He's kind of the godfather of independent comic books. He wrote this issue called 8 Ball, and he came out with like Ghost World and all this other kind of stuff, which everyone loves. And Monica was so hyped that it sold out everywhere and was the New York Times bestseller as a comic book and delivered. That's
awesome.
Very bizarre. If you are a superhero only fan and you read this, you're going to be like, this is like someone did a bunch of acid and then wrote a comic book. And that's basically what it is. So Monica was my favorite. Blood of the Virgin was probably my second favorite. It's about this Middle Eastern Jewish man that moves to California in like the 70s or 60s and is trying to become a director in like the grindhouse era of Hollywood. And it's very long, very interesting. And if you like filmmaking, I would say that. And if you like 70s Hollywood era stuff, pre-digital stuff, that was a blast. And then I really enjoyed the Velvet Underground had a graphic novel come out by them. And I thought it was one of, if not the best graphic novels about a band I've ever read.
So did they write it themselves?
No. I actually don't know who wrote it, but I don't even know if they were involved. But I'm a big Velvet Underground fan. From your guys' reaction, I'm sure you guys have at least listened to Velvet Underground at some point. So those are my 3 favorite like non-superhero comics. In terms of superhero stuff, I think Nightwing was the most steady. But that's kind of been the thing for the last few years. Nightwing just routinely puts out like just bangers and bangers.
Ooh, I didn't know that. I like Nightwing a lot, so I got to check that out.
Nightwing is like, I think he's even leader of the Justice League right now, or he's planning on being like Superman. Like came up. There was like Superman came and was like, Dick, we chose you to be like because you proved yourself. So it was great.
Love to hear that.
If you just want to turn your brain off and read a lot of fun comics. Oddly enough, Transformers has been a lot of fun, a ton of fun. It's very classic, and
I can see that.
And the action is great. So if you just don't, I'm not saying critical thinking is like bad or good, but I enjoy critical thinking. But sometimes you just want to like turn your brain off and just read.
Yeah, you want a blockbuster.
Oh, every issue of Transformers I read in 2023, I had fun.
Wow.
This your company was built on people turning their brain off, Jose. So both write and read.
The new Wonder Woman by Tom King has been very interesting. The only problem is it just reads a little too much like Civil War, where in this world the Amazons are now outlawed because one of them went crazy and killed a bunch of people in a bar. So now the U.S. government is kind of corralling the Amazons, and it just reads a lot like Civil War. And I do like Wonder Woman the character. This is the best Wonder Woman story I've read in a long time, but it's just nothing new. But the best Marvel comic book I've read will go right into 3 that I'm looking forward to because it's on the list because it's not done yet. And Clem, I'm glad you said X-Men was your favorite as a kid because what is happening in the X-Men world right now is bananas. I can't stress it, but I'll get to that in a second. The other things I'm excited for is the relaunching of the Ultimate Universe. I have been counting the days for Ultimate Spider-Man to return to my life because that is the best 110 issues I've ever read for Spider-Man in my entire life. Excited for that. I'm excited for the Sin City is allegedly getting relaunched or continued by Frank Miller. How that's gonna go is beyond me with Frank Miller's age and mindset. Spider-Man current Spider-Man run is terrible, but issue 50 is coming out and they always do something special for issue 50. Curious what that is. My favorite things are Monsters sequel or book 2 is coming out. Mark Spector just died in the comic book, so I'm curious where Moon Knight goes. And then Garth Ennis is going to write James Bond, so I'm also very curious about
James Bond comics.
Yeah, Garth Ennis, who's one of the best violence crime comic books writers out there. And then Hulk has been a lot of fun. Joker year
I saw you tweeted some pictures from Hulk that looked bananas.
Yeah, it's Hulk, a little more
transforming.
It's very horror themed. It's not the writing isn't as good, but the art is fantastic, and I'm glad they took Hulk away from Avengers intergalactic stuff, and he's just roaming America, and that's what he should do. But give
it to me, Jose.
I've been reading the Krakoa era was crazy for X-Men. Right now in the world, the X-Men are going to war with humanity, and we don't have enough time in the day. We would have to do a whole separate show to explain House of X, Fall of House of X, Powers of X, because it is honestly, it's been going on for years and it's kind of coming to a head now. But what I'm excited for is there's this Immortal X-Men and Sins of Sinister, I believe is what it's called, finished. And I told you I loved Cosmic Gods and I love new characters and them trying new things. And you can probably hear me get excited because this could be bad or it could be great. But I am so excited because it's brand new. I'm like, holy shit, I didn't see this coming. So there's this thing called the Dominion in the X-Men world, which is the pinnacle of AI that exists outside the multiverse. So there's the multiverse and there's Titan, there's something else, but the Dominion is it's a god. It is a god essentially, but they don't create things. It's just the pinnacle of AI, and there's one per Earth. So Earth 6 whatever. There's one Dominion, and it is outside of the multiverse. And to become a Dominion is very difficult. You have to it's. Again, there's not enough time in the day, so I'll just kind of fast forward. So Mr. Sinister tried to become a Dominion, and he ascended to Dominionhood, and then something blocked it and knocked him down, which means there was already some Dominion there. Ooh. It'd be like trying to reach into the cookie jar and seeing there's no more cookies. Someone took the cookies.
Cool.
And everyone's like, who the F is this? I thought we didn't have a Dominion. And then there was Mother Righteous, who was another clone of Mr. Sinister, also tried to ascend into the Dominion. And the Dominion knocked her down. Not even knocked her down. So this, oh my God, I'm going to talk too fast.
I love this, Jose.
So there's this room called the White Hot Room, which is kind of where the Phoenix Force lives, and you can do whatever you want there. You can rewrite reality. You can alter reality. You can change. You can do whatever you want, but it's you can't wrap your head around it. So they call it the White Hot Room because that's just what it is. It's a white room, and Mother Righteous is leading. I think I want to say Jean Grey or Phoenix through it, and then she kills Jean Grey, and then she takes, and basically whatever you write, whatever you do in the White Hot Room, you can do whatever you want. She takes the blood and writes and then a girl from Essex, who's Mr. Sinister, the girl from Essex became God or whatever, blah blah blah. She had to physically write it. And that's not even what you have to do. That's just so we can comprehend what's happening. Yeah. So then she ascended to Dominionhood. And then she gets there and she's like, wait, something's wrong. And then whack, knocked back down again. And you're like, what is happening? Why is there a Dominion here? It turns out that the Mr. Sinister that we have been seeing for like decades is not Mr. Sinister. The original Nathaniel Essex died centuries ago when he was working with Apocalypse. And further, there's this, I can't remember the name of it, but like we've seen glimpses of it in the comic books. Eventually there becomes this big battle between mutants and humans. And then AI joins the battle. And AI essentially wins and like takes all the data and like moves on to the next world. Right. And Nathaniel Essex saw this coming. And so the only way to beat them is to create the original AI. So Mr. Sinister, Dr. Stasis, Orbis Stellaris, and Mother Righteous are all clones of the original Nathaniel Essex. And they all have a different playing card symbol. So that diamond in his forehead is a diamond playing card. And Mother Righteous has the heart. And I don't remember the others. I don't remember which symbols the other two have. And then they show, and then like, you hear this voice and it was like, oh, I've been like you did what I wanted you to do. And she knocked it down. It turns out Nathaniel Essex has already ascended to Dominion Hood. We just didn't know. And I don't remember. And there's this character called the One Above All, which is God.
Oh, yeah.
He is God. There's one below all, which is just the antithesis of him. He's just chaos and corruption and violence. He's the devil. The only other person that would be on their level would be Oblivion, and that's just the absence of life. Like he represents the absence of everything. So like One Above All creates life. Oblivion represents no life.
Yeah.
There's this thing that the Dominion called Enigma, which is the crown above all, which is above the One Above All.
They just keep going above.
And the way they showed it is this big crown that just goes over all these worlds and sucks up all this information. Like there was like a world of like hamburgers that he destroyed. And it's such an amazing, it's an amazing 2-panel shot of like Enigma's coming. And I'm like, oh, what the fuck is Enigma? And then it shows the glass canisters that the clones were like birthed in.
Mm-hmm.
And it shows all of their playing cards on the top, and then 3 of them were on. And then when Mother Righteous got knocked down, the heart turned on. It turns out Nathaniel Essex had created all 4 clones with the sole purpose of those 4 were going to reach Dominion Hood and then fail because he's already there. And then all of their data would go to him, and then he would become Enigma. Enigma is coming, and then in the center of the room, when the 4th heart turned on, the crown turned on, the king symbol turned on, and it said Enigma is coming. And I was like,
"You're like Jose is coming."
What is happening right now?
Jose was coming when that happened.
I was like, exactly. I was like, what is going on? It's like Enigma is the one source of power in like the world. Like the only thing that it would fear is the Phoenix Force, because the Phoenix Force can destroy realities. It is such a mind-bending twist that I am so excited. I'm so excited to see what it could be. Real bad. I'm hoping it's not. I'm hoping it's not.
I hope people like will go back and get into it, and hopefully they took your description as like a trailer for supposedly great comic books.
And there's like other things that have happened in the X-Men too that like I said, it would take a lot to. We don't have enough time.
Is Emma Frost married to Tony Stark? Was that in this reality?
I don't think she's married at all right now. Okay. That I think of it, but
she's on the market. You like her, Clem?
I love her. I think she's going to be. I was saying if there was like a character, I hope they build around that isn't just your typical Wolverine.
Sure.
You know, I kind of want her to be more involved in the X-Men. And I also said, I wonder if you agree, if it can't be Magneto, who, let's be honest, that was kind of the Tatooine of the X-Men. They just kept going back.
Magneto's dead.
He's dead shit. But in the upcoming movies with the X-Men in the MCU, if I think you have to have Magneto. He's so important to the core of it. He's Xavier basically on the other side. I think I want Mr. Sinister to kind of be our big bad.
I'm here for it.
Right?
I'm here for it.
I think you are, based on the last 10-minute description. I think you are.
It was so mind-bending when I read it. And like I said, right now, I think within like the last week or so, the X-Men have like declared war on humanity, and they are not holding back. Like Colossus
within
just,
the
like,
last week,
within the last
breaking news.
month, week or so, like this is coming to a head like now. Like there's an
Yeah.
issue I just read where Colossus is like, well, I guess I'm not holding back anymore, and just goes ballistic on like soldiers and just kills a bunch of people. Like they're not holding back. And
This
Emma
sounds
Frost
sick.
actually led the X-Men for a while in the Grant Morrison's X-Men. That's one of my favorite
Grant
runs. That was like
Morrison's
early
the man.
2000s. She got with Cyclops because Jean Grey was dead.
Pete Carroll retires. Nick Saban retires. X-Men have declared war on humanity. Three fucking breaking stories that I.
But like I'm telling you, Clem, X-Men has been one of the few Marvel titles that is going on right now that I look forward to every month.
We're just going to have to do a live stream where it's just me and you talking. I'll just be asking you questions. There's times I listen to podcasts like NBA podcasts. I don't follow the NBA closely other than the Knicks, but I just like to know what's going on. And I can just hear you talk about this. I don't read any of the stuff, but your like description of it, that keeps me entertained. Hopefully I think based on what I hear, the people agree as well at home. So
it's people were not
our X-Men stream.
It's one of those rare finales where people were like, it was not on their bingo card. Like no one saw this coming, and that is rare in comic books. That is even rare in X-Men. It is even rare to take a character that was established and retcon their history and make people still excited. Like the whole thing with Nightcrawler, actually his mom and like Destiny and Mystique, like
I saw
Mystique,
some of that.
Like Mystique turned herself into a male, and like so she is her dad and mom. Yeah. Like it's a whole thing.
It's like Eric Cartman, right? Didn't Cartman's mom do something like that?
That I don't know. But like I respect them trying new things, but this I think checks all boxes. But again, it could be real bad. I'm just as of right now, that's the like Immortal X-Men 18, I think it was like last month and the month before. So there's been no new development since.
So this is everyone's homework for the week. You go to your local comic store, you ask for the latest couple X-Men issues, and you take a picture of it and you send it to us afterwards. Like, check it out. Look what I bought.
Or
that's what I want to see this week.
House of X, Fall of House of X, and the Krakoa.
Well, yeah, you got to go back to really appreciate everything. But
you can just read Immortal X-Men or Sins of Sinister to just basically get what I described. And there'll be some stuff you'll be a little confused about, but I think they do a good job of explaining it in the story.
There we go. This was a fun episode. Thank you for joining us, Jose. I promise it will not be another year until we get you back on. We're going to get you back on soon.
Well, I'll be moving to your guys' neck of the woods, so maybe I'll go to
an in-person episode.
Hey,
we should do an in-person episode at Barstool HQ. We'll get you in. That would be so. How about this? We need to hit up some comic stores and be like, hey, can we film? And you'll take us to the comic store. And that'll be like, boss. We could like tour comic stores with you.
I'll do.
This sounds like the dream.
Anything for the Basement Boys and the comic book community, I'm all there. And when you told me, Rob, you already told me this, but Deadpool's like the only Marvel movie coming out this year.
Yeah, in July 26th. Yeah. They're it feels like they're putting all their eggs in that basket too. Like, this is going to be the one. We promise it's going to like work.
That's going to print money. I can already tell you.
And X-Men 97 is coming back, Jose. I don't know when. I thought it was January 4th. Turns out it was. In my head, I thought January 4th. That came and went and never just happened. So
as long as it's good, I'm happy.
When does bog season begin up in Massachusetts?
That's a good question. I'll ask my parents about that. That's very funny.
I wonder if we've got any listeners that work the cranberry fields. If you do, invite us over.
Please do.
We'll be there.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you, Jose, for joining us. We'll see you next week.
If you made it to the end, #BogBoys. That's going to be our
Bog Boys. I like that.
I'm here for it.